Right guys, welcome back to another episode here. It's a different setting. I'm here in Dubai. I've got a guest, one of my role models and also my dad and also my employer. I want to introduce you to Jagdeep, one of the original owners of Eastwest Photography.
How's it going?
Jagdeep, welcome.
How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, good, thank you. Yourself?
Yeah, it's good, Harmeet. I think it's been long coming since I was saying that jump on your podcast or just get some recordings done.
Yeah, it's been a while. We've always been saying let's do it, but we thought we've got the beautiful setting of Dubai behind us. We've got nothing to do this evening, so we thought let's just have a conversation on business and life and what you have passion for.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to call you Dad, I'm going to call you Jag. So Jag, talk to us. Tell us a bit about yourself, who you are.
So my name is Jagdeep Singh. I'm on Eastwest Photography, on Kili Arts, and I've pure passion for business, and I have done for I'd say in the last over 2 decades, 24 years now. And one of the things I've just loved is that from a very early age, coming out of university and realizing, need to earn some money, and ended up just photographing as a guest at my sister's wedding, and then just went on from there, just doing some stuff. That was that back then we were shooting film, so it was very different setting,
very different ball game for where it is now.
And then it just started off from there. Really, that's where the whole business journey kind of started. Because I thought, this is like everyone does, thinks there's a lot of money to be made here. And it was at a very early stage when I realised that what I was charging was actually not worth my while doing it. So from there on, that's when the whole journey started. And then throughout the last 24 years, we've started our printing company. Outside that, I've been involved in things like property. I love real estate and have other things that have in the background. I love investing. I love the crypto scene. Have done that for a long time. I love the whole, stocks and shares and things like that. And I generally do love when it comes to people talking about investing. If somebody's investing in something, I'm always very keen in knowing what you're doing, how you're doing it. I just want to know what is it that you're doing and how can I jump on it?
So let's take you back 20 plus years ago. Yeah. A lot of questions that I've been getting, obviously as the son of the business. Where did the name Eastwest come from? Let's talk about both Eastwest and Kili Arts.
It was a fantastic journey on that. I remember myself and my brother-in-law Govinda, we actually used to shoot weddings separately, and I actually really hated it because I just realised that, look, you know what, I'm not making money out of this. It's got to be really worth my while. I was charging 500 quid back then for weddings, shooting on film, getting those developed and then sticking them on albums and that kind of stuff. Then I stopped for about a year or so, and I think Govinda went and bought a digital camera. I think it was a Fuji S2, I think it was, and I remember we were at a Gurdwara and he took a photo and I was like, wow, man, this is amazing. You take a photo, you can see it straight away. And I think literally a week later, I'd gone in and bought one as well. And we had an opportunity to photograph a good friend of mine and some, I think someone in the family got married to a good friend of mine, and they asked whether we could photograph together. And I tell you straight, it was a great connection back then. We went and shot the wedding together, and it was a great combo, and we thought we got to offer this because it worked really, really well. And we then went on, I think it's about a few months, maybe going as G&D Photography, and there used to be some occasions, I think it was an Indian wedding magazine, putting an advert in there of G&D Photography, and the name didn't really catch on. And I think it was Govinda's wife sat down and says Eastwest Photography, and it was like, well, I lived in East London, he lived in West London, and we called it Eastwest Photography.
Wow.
And it was like, wow.
And it just rolls off your tongue very smoothly.
Absolutely, it does. And then it went on. And generally people took a piss out of that name. People made, fun and joked and all that. But it was only a matter of time that because we were bringing something so different to the Asian wedding industry, it was a right, fusion, something walking away from, this whole traditional type of photography to something that was very contemporary, You know, we were seeing how English weddings were shot. We were surrounding ourselves with those, you know, the Yvonnes and Martin Shembrys back then, who's no longer with us, but all these big names, you know, Jerry Guionis. We surrounded ourselves with, in an environment that we wanted to bring that style of photography within the Asian market. And we were quite fortunate that we were. We had clients who were coming in, bearing in mind we went from charging £5,000 for weddings to straight away nearly £6,000 just for photography. And clients were so willing to pay that because they saw something very different.
Yeah.
That's what.
So talk to me. So you've had a very, I'd say, interesting journey for the past 20 years in the photography industry. Talk to me, what are the challenges that you've had? What are the challenges that you feel like you could face in the next couple of years?
Look, you know, every business, and you know this, right? No matter what you do, you'll always find challenges, okay? You are never ever going to be and remain the best in the game, right? You know, we talk about in Premiership football clubs, and I saw a reel this morning where I'm not into football, but this footballer was just being questioned about, does he see himself as a failure? And he says, no, you're not failure. You know, you are constantly learning. You may not have a great year, but you come back the following year and have a great year. You look back and reflect on the year that what didn't go right, and you change that. And the key is that for me was that always reflecting back on how can you innovate, how can you become better at what you do. You know, we went from film photography, shooting films, shooting digital, and just photography, changing the style of photography, offering different type of albums, which were the flush, called the magazine albums. We were constantly looking ways to innovate, finding things that would inspire clients. You know, we used to do parent books, small little 6x4 mini books for parents, you know, and they were lovely and people loved it, and they were like, parents loved it. So it was about constantly innovating what you're doing. And you have to be in business, no matter what you're doing, you got to be innovating constantly, because if you don't innovate, you will die. If you don't change, if you don't see what's coming up, if you don't see, you know, you do see what's coming, the challenges, right? There's some challenges will come out the blue, out of shock, and you'll be like, okay, here's another one. How do I deal with it? And you got to move on. But you got to be constantly innovating. And I think we introduced, we used to work with a lot of videographers, and we found that videography was such a scene that videographers generally found it difficult to deliver the end product at a timely manner. And I think it's still the same, and we find that now as well. It is, you know, if it was up to me, I'd get rid of videography for my business, and because it is one of the most time-consuming things that we've got, because it's so difficult to manage. That becomes a challenge in itself. But the only way you work around it, and the only way you can improve it, is just to say, let's look at what we're doing, where do we want to be, and what do we need to get there, right? What tools, what systems and processes do we need to be able to get there?
So Jag, talk to me. So I always, you know, used to ask you questions as a child, you know, what you used to do and stuff. And one of the interesting points that got to me was you and Govinda invented, I'd say, pre-shoots. Talk to me. What's that journey?
This was a really, really great one, right? So we didn't invent pre-shoots. What happened was, pre-shoots never really existed within the Asian wedding industry. And this is going back from, I would say, as early as 2002 and 3. And I remember asking a photographer at an event, it was Dennis Orchard, and there was someone else there, and I can't remember who it was, saying that, you know, one of the things we find difficult at that time was that when we meet the bride and groom, the first time we've met them after they've booked us is on the wedding day, and it was sometimes really difficult to try and get this whole chemistry going with them. And I remember one of them saying, why don't you do an engagement shoot with them, which is you meet the bride and groom beforehand, spend about an hour, break the ice, do a photo shoot with them. And I remember our first ever client was Trishna and Hiran. And I remember meeting Govinda. We were both working full time at the time. We both worked full time. And I remember meeting Trishna and Hiran by Tower Bridge, by the Design Museum. And hopefully if they're listening to this, you know, you've been mentioned into this podcast. And it was a fantastic opportunity, and we ended up photographing this lovely couple back, I would say now I think it's about nearly 20 years ago, maybe just over 20 years ago. And I'll tell you, that broke the ice. And when we did their wedding, it was like the chemistry just worked. And then from there on, we started promoting pre-shoots. And it was great because it evolved through the industry.
And I feel like what you just said when you first started talking about it breaks the ice between yourself and the couple. And I feel me starting to shoot now as well, when you see the couple before, a couple of months before the wedding, when they're not in that wedding stress, I feel like as a couple, they kind of bond with you a lot easier when it comes to the wedding day. Look, you have that, you can have a joke with them, have a laugh, and you're trying to break the ice between the couple as well. Because sometimes 90 or even 80% of the times, the couples have never had, photos done together. And you don't want it that on their wedding day, it's the first time being put in front of a big camera and they start getting all nervous.
It's so true. Look at this, right? So we had a scenario recently, and I hear it all the time, and I hear it in my printing business, I'll hear it from other photographers who say, oh yeah, they'll look at their photos and say, oh yeah, the couple didn't have great chemistry. And I always disagree with them, and I'll say to them, well, what do you mean they didn't have chemistry? Was it the chemistry with you and them? Because it wasn't with them two, right? Because otherwise they wouldn't be getting married together. Yeah. So one of the first things I always say is that when you meet up with a bride and groom, you can't start shooting straight away. You got to have a little chit chat with them, find out what they do, find out what their hobbies are. Are they looking forward to today's photo shoot? And you'd be surprised that they'll say, do you know what, we're actually really nervous. That's the key. They're going to say we're nervous. And guess what? That's where you come in and say, hey, no need to be nervous. It's your moment. Relax. We're going to have good fun. Yeah. We're going to chill. We're going to have, your body. You see me, my body, I move my body when I talk. My energy changes depending what I'm doing, because the energy you give out is the energy you receive. So when you give that energy out, people will be like, oh man, you know what? I love it. Really great, really good. Just before we jump on this podcast recording, I got a message come through on the WhatsApp, and I was like, look, man, I'm not going to be too focused on this because I need to know, I need to address the situation was. And it literally, as soon as I spoke to my colleague, we had a really quick chat. I knew straight away, no issues, no problem. Change your physiology, change how you are, change your energy. Moment. And then just go in. And the same way with bride and grooms, man. Break the ice by not saying they don't have the chemistry there. Remember, they're just nervous. They've never ever been professionally photographed, right? Photographing on iPhones and all that kind of stuff is not professional because they're having fun and all that kind of stuff. But when you turn up with a camera with kit, it's like, whoa.
It's
I'm
real.
overwhelmed now.
Yeah.
They freeze.
It's real.
But the good thing is, when you do pre-shoots, you pick up on all the out of the ordinary habits.
That's exactly what.
See? We used to get guys who used to just smile, and their smile looked really fake, and then like this. So we then taught them how to just smile with their, lips
and
slightly
kind
open,
of relax,
breathe, open them out. And sometimes if the guy smiles with their lips closed, or the bride, and certain things, you pick out on some of the things, right? I think also the other thing was always having conversation with the bride and grooms about what they're going to wear. What's their spiritual? What does a successful photo shoot look like? Is the kind of stuff that I'd be asking now. If you're doing a photo shoot with a bride and groom, you got to ask them and say, what does a successful photo shoot look like for you? What do you want out of it? What do you envision? What do you feel? And just hear what they're saying.
And I think that's not with just pre-shoots as well. I think mainly that's with weddings as well.
Yeah.
What is your main objective? Getting your wedding covered by a media team. Yeah. Are you just doing it because you want just to have it tick the box, or are you doing it because you actually want to file that in that moment that you've had, that in the next 10 years time you can go and watch it? I mean, talk to me.
Remember what you're selling, yeah? What is it that you are selling, yeah? You're not selling photography. People get this wrong. You're not selling photography. You're selling feelings.
Yeah.
Right? It's when the person looks at the images, is how they feel is what you've just sold. And that's where people get it wrong. if you can understand that, then guess what? You are now going to create those moments, create those fun moments of them, that when they reflect back and look at those images, it's those feelings, wow, man, I love it.
Yeah.
We just had that message today just come from a bride and saying, please tell me we captured the formal shots of my parents
shots,
during an event. And you said, well, we didn't. The reason why, because at the time you went to tell the bride and groom, hey, let's grab the family formal shots. Even the mum said, let's do it. You just got the mum and dad shot, but the mum turned around and said, the bride says no formal shots. But the bride's now come back and
I feel it's a lesson learned for not just the bride that we've had, but for a lot of people. Formal shots are formal, but always nice to have.
Yeah.
Look, everyone comes and goes. Not everyone's around here for thousands and thousands of years. It would be nice, in the next 30, 40 years, if you do lose someone in your family, it'll be nice, to be able to look back at those images that you got taken. And like you just said, formal shots are formal, but it's always nice to capture them.
For me,
it's a must.
It has to be done. The parents with the bride and groom is really important, and I do my best. But then it comes to the point where if the client has said to you, hey,
I don't want to do it.
You
just got to listen to them.
As long as you've got it documented that the bride and groom said that. In your case, you guys did, because the bride messaged back and said, idiot bride, should have actually got these shots done. But hey, end of story.
End of story.
There's nothing you can do, but you move on.
So Jag, tell me, so in the past 3 or 4 years, in the office, we have a lot of things dotted around, i.e. Tony Robbins, posters and stuff, and you've been traveling to Miami quite a few times.
Yeah.
So talk to me, what's going on?
Listen, you have to invest in yourself in learning, right? You got to constantly invest yourself in new material, new stuff, in learning, right? And I say this all the time. Photographers just want to go out there and learn how to photograph even better. In fact, what they need to do is they can photograph better and video better. You may want to just go and do a sales course. You may want to just go and do a marketing course, because photographers, when you're running a business, right? Well, if you're a freelancer, you know what you're going to do. You get someone ring you up, call, come, shoot, job done, off you go, hand the images, that's it. You're not running a business. But when you're running a business, there's so many different moving parts in a business that you need to be slightly switched on to understand which part connects how and where do I need to put my focus on, right? I get that through learning, and in the last 5 years, I've really, in fact, not 5 years, I would say last 7 years, I've really pushed myself in that knowledge space where you really immerse yourself, get yourself the right coaches, get yourself the right teachers to learn something new. I've got an upcoming masterclass at the societies that I'm going to be doing in January, and I really want those who want to know a little bit more about this, right, is titled as Know Your Numbers. And for me, it's about knowing your numbers all the time, right? And I'll say it to you as well, Harmeet. When we're always conversation, you guys will come up and say, hey man, we've taken a booking on, right? We quoted 15 grand, and I'm like, that's really good, fantastic, right? I don't love listening to big numbers. What I like listening to is, what is your profit? How much profit you're gonna make out of it, right? How much profit you make in a business is down to you. Because if it means that you make a small amount of profit, it means you're gonna have to work even harder to reach the number you want, that will allow you to be able to live the life that you want to live. So remember, we don't work for money, right? We work for the lifestyle that money creates. And that's what people don't understand. So, in my masterclass, I've put various elements of knowledge in there that is gonna kick your, brain into gear for 2025 to understand, man, my business has so many moving parts. I'm not going to overwhelm myself, but I'm going to get my numbers right. Let me work out exactly how much it's going to cost. One of the biggest challenges we found in our business in the last 2 years is that we had no control of how much it actually cost to do a job. That's the truth of the matter. When you are involved in paying out so much when it comes to labor costs, shooters, Subscriptions. Businesses have so many subscriptions, and they will not realize that annually they might be paying tens of thousands of pounds in subscription. So knowing your numbers in your business, knowing where your money is going, is super, super crucial, man.
Yeah.
So that's where I've gone in, and what I've learned and applied is now I teach.
Okay, lovely. So guys, this is a very, very short episode. As you can tell, we're losing light. This is only going to be part one. We've got a part two. We want to learn about the crypto side of things. We want to learn about, all that. And crypto itself is such a big, big topic, And with Jag being my dad, I know how much crypto, it means to him. The one thing is, I've learned in the past 2 days of spending time with him is you lose to gain. And that's one big thing that will stay to me. You lose things, you lose people, to gain people and to gain things, to gain knowledge. So we're going to do a part two where we're going to talk about all that crypto stuff because, there is a lot to, you can agree there's a lot to.
There is. I mean, just wrap it up. I mean, what we said today, we were just sat at the beach today and you said, do you not get scared of losing everything that you may have invested in? Absolutely not, right? Because you strategically put your investments not in one pot, in various pots. So you don't focus on one. Crypto is just one element. Stocks and shares is one element. Property is one element. The knowledge space is one element.
Yeah.
So, depending where you invest, you just keep an eye every single time and be strategically, know what your money is doing for you and at what time do you pull it and put it back in.
So guys, we're going to leave you with that. Would you be scared if one day you wake up and you invested thousands and thousands of pounds into Bitcoin or into the crypto scene? I'm going to leave it with you. Would you be scared that you might wake up tomorrow and it might not be there? But guys, that's a topic for another time. But Jag, thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you guys in a bit. Thank you.